Hello, my name's Ian Hunter, and this is the Late Shift Sports Show.
Love it. Love it. How's it going, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. Coming off a Blue Jays loss, but we'll put that in the back of our brain for now. But other than
It was
that,
a
everything's
tough one.
good.
It was a tough one. They lost 6-7 to the Yankees, right? So not exactly what we want. It's been a tough year for all of us Jays fans, really, eh? Like compared to last year. The injury lists, some of the players not playing as much as they used to last year, and it's just been a little bit of a change compared to what obviously we had such I think what I would say is last year it was kind of like the same kind of feeling in the beginning of the year, slow. People were kind of writing the Jays off and all that stuff, but they're still 3 point or three positions out of the wild card. What's your thoughts on that there, Ian?
Yeah, it's definitely been a different dynamic this year. I don't know if that's changed just simply because of expectations. Um, I would say probably for the first half of last year, I don't know if the players had this perspective, but I think a lot of fans were just kind of playing with house money. Um, it kind of felt like, oh, the wheels are going to fall off of this at some point because it's Toronto sports, right? That's just usually what happens. And because going into last year, there was, I don't want to say zero expectations, but I don't think anyone ever foresaw them winning a division title, let alone going all the way to the World Series. So you take the fact that they were a few outs away from winning a World Series last year, and you roll that over into this year, and there's expectations have suddenly changed. So I think when you're not running away with the division, people are going to see that as a disappointment. But yeah, as you've said, somehow still the Jays are several games under 500 and within spitting distance of a playoff spot. Nobody in the American League seems to want to win games this year, which if you're going to go on, have a slump like this would be a time to do it because the Blue Jays could make up ground. But it's strange how a year all of a sudden can change things. I would say on the field, this season is looking a lot more like what we saw early in 2024 rather than last year. But the weight of expectations has just, I would say, changed things astronomically.
So those are you who are just joining in. This is Ian Hunter, aka Blue Jay Hunter. I've heard him from other shows in the area. One of my other guests, Mike Farwell. That's how I know and listen to Ian Hunter. So I got him on the show for this podcast, the Late Shift Sports Show, and it's been a pleasure to have you, man, on the show. And to talk Blue Jays. You're my first guest to talk baseball, so I'm excited to have you on and to listen to your thoughts on that. So, what got you into? Let's start with you first before we even get into the Blue Jays here. What got you into baseball? Did you play growing up? Were you, or is it just one of the things that you just enjoy watching as a kid, or did you play competitively? How did you get into the whole baseball dynamic of things?
Yeah, I'm like the most anti-competitive baseball player you could ever come through. I retired at, I think it was 12 years old. Basically, so I got into it kind of like a lot of the kids in the late 80s, early 90s was the Blue Jays, right? Just the popularity and dominance of that team in the American League. If you weren't a Jays fan at that time, you weren't cool. Essentially, was how I viewed it in public school. So, like a lot of kids, I took up baseball and really enjoyed it. My parents had friends who were really big Jays fans, so just by osmosis of the people that you hang out with, you kind of start to take on their hobbies and what they enjoy. And I think those friends took me to my very first Jays game, which was I think the day the Jays clinched the AL East in '93 at home. So I think it was eight. I was 7 or 8. At that time, I had no idea what the gravity of that meant. I was like, oh, they're setting off fireworks and they won the game. This is great. But it was like a huge game. So yeah, I followed the Jays along those early '90s times. The funny thing was the baseball strike of '94 essentially killed my love of baseball for a really long time.
Okay.
I didn't get back into baseball. Like, yeah, I retired from Little League at like 12 or 13. And my interest in sports kind of shifted to football, basketball. Baseball wasn't really on my radar again for about, I want to say, maybe 10 to 15 years. It was right around maybe 2005, 2006, where I really picked up the Jays again. I think just out of boredom. I really didn't have much to do, so I was like, oh, I used to like this team when I was a kid. Why? Maybe I should pick this up again. And so at the time, I had a lot of free time. I was reading a lot of these things called blogs that used to be out there in the internet, and it was kind of like a forum for fans to really basically vent their frustrations about the Jays. So there was a few of those that I followed, and at one point I decided, hey, why don't I come up with one of these? Because I was consuming so much of this content via blogs. This was before Twitter, this was before Facebook and all that. So I decided to kind of write on my own, and I started my own blog in 2007, and those, I would say, like the first 5 years, it's such a hot mess. Like if I go back and read some of the old stuff, it's not great, but I think it was an outlet to vent my frustrations about the Blue Jays, and it's like getting your reps in anything, right? Once you have a lot of practice, eventually you get a little bit better. So I had been doing that, and over the years, I've written for various outlets. I've had pieces up at Sportsnet and The Athletic, done some stuff for other sports outlets here and there, and I've been doing it ever since. Next year will be, if I'm counting, 20 years since I've been writing about the Jays. Maybe 10 or so professionally, but 20, which is a really long time. So obviously in that span of time, I've seen a lot of things change with this franchise, but it's been fun to follow because they are my childhood team.
I mean, it's fun to see how people that don't watch baseball come on the bandwagon. A good friend of mine, even last year, I texted him because my family, we've had season tickets for, I think we're like, my dad was saying we were one of the first, like when the Jays first came as a team back in the 70s or whenever it was, right? And so we've been lucky to, I don't go to every game, but I probably pick up 2 or 3 games a year. I'll try to get to a game, right? And when last year, I watch it every year to just, I'm not watching every game, but I'm watching quite a bit of it just to stay on top of it, right? And one of my good friends, I messaged him, I think we were playing Seattle before we went to, was it Seattle before we went to the World Series last year?
Mm-hmm.
And I messaged him, I was like, hey, are you watching the Jays? Like, we're one away from going to the World Series. He's like, the Jays, are they doing good this year? I haven't even figured that out. And I was like, forget it. He's like, oh, I just put it on TV. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like, forget it. That's it. Just message me when it's done, right?
That sounds like I think I had a very similar conversation with my mom. She called me at one point. I think it was either during the ALCS or the World Series, and she asked, are the Jays still in it? Yeah, they are, Mom. So, I mean, it's crazy because it envelops our lives and it's obvious to us. But right. I think you can really tell when a team has kind of permeated every other aspects of life is when, like, you have friends that maybe don't follow baseball, or like my mom who's asking me about the Jays. Like, that's how I know, and it's a big deal. So I don't begrudge bandwagon fans either, because everyone has to start somewhere too.
Oh, exactly.
Right? And I always say the more the merrier. Like, even if you only like the Jays because you like the logo or you think this player is funny, it doesn't matter. I think the more Jays fans, the better, especially for when you only have one professional team, Major League Baseball team in the country. But right. Yeah, it's been fun to watch the last couple of years because, like I said earlier, those early years that I was following the Jays, like in the mid-2000 era, that was some like dark times in Jays land. Like there was not, aside from basically Roy Halladay starts and Jose Bautista games, there was not a ton to look forward to back then.
And every team goes through, it's dark times. Like, look at the Red Sox right now. I mean, they're
Hmm.
just the poor, those poor Bostonians, right? So like you said, you've been following it since the beginning. Do you have a favorite logo? Like, what era do you like? Like, what year of a Blue Jays logo? Do you like the current one, or do you like the? Some people like the vintage look.
Yeah, I'm always partial to the original. I always see it seems like Kevin Gosman because the starters, I believe, always get to pick the uniforms that they wear that
Okay.
day, and you'll often see Kevin Gosman wearing the vintage white panel cap with the old logo. So I think he likes that one a lot. I still feel like that's the best one. Obviously, the current one is an homage to the original, but that
Right.
one will always be my favorite. I think it's just there's so much nostalgia there and a lot of goodwill with those teams and those players. So to me, even if they brought that back and they wore that full time, I think that would make a lot of people happy. But that's kind of essentially what that logo, the one that's on your right behind you there, that's kind of an homage. It's like a
That's
younger brother to that original logo.
this one right here.
Yeah, and it's not all that different. If you put them
No.
side by side, you do see the differences, but yeah, I do. I feel like the original is still the best.
It's funny because everybody doesn't like the whole generic look, right? Like I think the Toronto Maple Leafs, they for the longest time they had that generic maple leaf, right?
Mhm.
And when they brought back that natural more look, people were just like, finally, like it's not like somebody just went on AutoCAD and designed a logo, right? So even like the T, do you remember the T, the one that they had for 1 year? It was like 2003, I think it was. They had like a T and the bird coming out. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
the
I don't know.
muscle bird.
Muscle bird, yeah.
That
I didn't
guy.
really care for that. Even the Jays, when it just said the Jays, I'm like, come on, we gotta put a little more effort into this here, boys. So,
It's funny because they gave away. I tweeted about this a while ago. They had a Trey Savage black Jays jersey giveaway a few weeks ago, and
yep.
one thing that horrified me, I saw it described in the YouTube video that the Jays put out. It said vintage. That was vintage, and I'm like, this was 20 years ago, so that scares the hell out of me that we're using the word vintage. But I think sometimes enough time passes that those logos and uniforms that have fallen out of favor come back again.
Oh, yeah.
And the Jays have really leaned into that this year because they have giveaways of basically every era of old uniforms and logos and things like that. So to me, I still detest the black jersey with the Jays across the Angry Bird logo.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I don't think you'll ever see me wearing one of those hats, but for some people that's their jam. Like that's the team, that's the era that they grew up on. So there's nostalgia there. So I totally get it because like I just mentioned earlier, that original Jays logo is that's my jam. So anything original logo, I will eat up no problem. So I can see why, as ugly as the black one is, or the muscle J, or the T, if you grew up with that, it might have a special place in your heart.
Yeah, no, that's true. And just want to let you know that this was from the giveaway, just when my dad went to the World Series there. So,
Oh, okay. Does it have the
yeah,
patch on it? The World Series patch?
it does.
Oh, the postseason. Okay, nice.
Postseason. Which one did you get? Oh, hold on a second here. 1 second. So I've got so many. I have the World Series, the Black World Series one. I've got all. I couldn't find them all. They're all around my house. I wear them like I switch it up and stuff. This one's the one that has the World Series on it there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle? Are you one of these people who has like 50 hats in
Yes.
rotation?
Yeah. I have a Rangers one. I've got a Montreal Canadiens one. I've got like all my sports teams. And that's the type of guy I am.
Okay.
So
I have
yeah,
a
yeah.
friend who, I kid you not, probably has maybe about 50, he might have like 70 hats at any given point, and he wears a lot of them. Like, so most of them are sports. He has NFL hats. He's a beer guy, so he buys like a beer hat at basically every brewery that he goes to. So I've only got like five. I've only got five in my rotation. It's quite small.
It's just funny because like my other half there, she's always like laughing. She's like, I need to get you a hat rack because like your hats are everywhere. They're in the car. They're just everywhere, right? So let's get into the Jays here. So like I said, like this year's been a little bit different than last year. It's still amazing to see the fan base though. Like I think when I went back in May, and I'm going again June 6th, and even my dad said the same thing. He's like, it still feels like you're in a playoff position, the way that the fans are reacting to the team, and they're all there and stuff, right? And it's just nice to see the fan base really, not really like, it's a little bit of a different season, but they haven't really left. Like it's just, it feels like we're still in a postseason, and how much they're filling the stands and stuff, right? The Jays are like we said, they're a couple of spots out of the wild card. Should we be worried now? I know it's May, almost June. Is this something that as a Jays fan, should we be worried about what's coming up, or is it still like a little bit? We still got a little bit of time to make that wild card spot.
Yeah, I've seen the problem is like I'm not declaring the season over on May 19th by any
Right.
means, but there's just a lot of disturbing trends that have seemed to carry on far too long than anyone would have liked. To me, this all hinges on Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and it's been a slow start to him. The thing is, he tends to be a really slow starting player. Like April and May are typically not the best months of his career for whatever reason. He just can't seem to get it going. I think he has 3 homers on the season, not hitting a ton of extra bases. So when you're not getting contributions from Vlad, Addison Barger's on the IL, same with Alejandro Kirk, and George Springer has not hit it into high gear yet. Like basically, this team's offense right now is hinging on Kazuma Okamoto and Ernie Clement. And,
Yeah.
No offense to those two guys, they're really great players, but they're not your franchise superstars. Like they're probably not the guys you want in the batter's box with the game on the line. So the fact that they are not getting contributions from the lineup is, I don't know, it worries me a little bit. I feel like the starting pitching has been okay overall, like on the top end of the rotation with Gosman and Cease and Trey Savage coming back. I feel like that's a really solid 3. Patrick Corbin is going to give you innings. Like he walked the tightrope against the Yankees yesterday and it came out okay. And then whoever else they're going to fill in the 5th spot. The bullpen has been actually, I want to say, average to maybe a little bit better than average as of late. But the area that needs to be, I don't know if it needs to be addressed with trade yet, is still that lineup to me. So it just feels like they haven't, aside from that opening series against the Athletics in Toronto, they just have not found their footing offensively yet. So, and we know the talent's there. We've seen their capability, right? They were one of the best lineups in all of baseball last year. And for the most part, minus Bo Bichette, they rolled over the same players into this year. So it makes you wonder what's going on here. So I don't really know what the secret is, but I feel like the longer that this drags on, it makes it that much harder to get into the playoffs. I'd like division title at this point is, I'm not going to say it's a foregone conclusion, but that's a lot of ground to make up on the Yankees and the Rays here.
And the amount of injuries they've had, they're still not doing as bad as I thought they would be. Like, I mean, like we could have been, down, way down, right? They've stayed pretty competitive. I mean, like, sure, we've lost, a handful of games here, and we lost to the Yankees, and but I mean, like, we're not a last place team for like you said, we got Alejandro Kirk is gone for a little bit. I think he's coming back. When is it? End of May, maybe June now. Did they announce it? I haven't seen anything.
He's starting to do some hitting work. So I think I've always said if we see him before the All-Star break, that would be like a conservative return. So, I mean, I would say maybe end of June at the earliest at this point. But and the freak thing with Barger, the day after he comes off the IL, he throws that rocket. I forget how many miles an hour it was, and then he goes back on the IL. So it's been Murphy's Law with these Blue Jays this year. Like, and George Springer, when he broke his toe and then he goes off, he's off for a while and then he comes back, and a few days later he hits a ball off the exact same spot. But I mean, like, teams, every single team last year's Los Angeles Dodgers included, everyone has to have the depth to sustain these injuries. Nobody's going to get off scot-free without having a big player go down for a significant chunk of time. And the Blue Jays just haven't had those guys to come step up, or their big boys deliver, like a Vlad. Like if, say, a Kirk goes down and Vlad says, hey, I'm going to put this team on my back. He hasn't done that yet. He did last year in the playoffs for sure. So, and in the World Baseball Classic. So that's just, I think if you're a fan, it's really frustrating because you know the potential of this lineup and you just haven't seen it for a sustained period this year.
What's your thoughts on Max Scherzer?
Yeah, he's. So I want to preface this by saying he's a year younger than me.
Okay.
So and it's funny because we always talk about a 41-year-old in Major League Baseball like they're 75, right? Like it's a modern marvel that he's even on the mound. He was dealing with some forearm issue. I guess he got another cortisone shot in his thumb, which was the issue that faced him last year. I just feel like it's going to be hard for him to push this thing across the finish line, just because the amount of injuries that he's sustained over the last handful of years. I think we'll see him back in a Blue Jays uniform at some point this year, but I don't see him pitching significant innings with this team, which is a shame because I think most Jays fans, when they think of Max Scherzer, they think of that game in the ALCS where, John Schneider comes up and he refuses to give him the ball, right? And that type of fortitude that he has and just gamesmanship and the sheer knowledge that he has is unlike anybody else in Major League Baseball. But I kind of feel like this thing is winding down here for him. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year, if this is his last year or if next year would be, but it seems to me like the injuries just keep piling up and it's going to be really hard for him to come back and contribute in a significant way the rest of the season, I feel like.
I was going to ask so you think that was going to fall my next question is you think he's going to retire, but I don't even think, I would say it's either he retires or they're going to put him like, one of the guys that's going to be like one of the last pitching guys they'll put in the game or whatever, right? Like he'll be one of the last ones to come in the bullpen, right? I don't think he's going to be a starter anymore or whatever,
Yeah, it's hard because they're trying to navigate the Barrios thing with him undergoing surgery, likely done for the rest of the year. That kind of made a decision for the team already, but they were facing a similar situation where obviously this guy isn't 100%. Are we going to continue to roll him out here even though we know maybe he's like a 4 or 5 inning guy? I think the same conversation is being had with Scherzer here. So I don't know. It seems like he will be coming back, but it's just, I think what we saw in the second half of last year with Scherzer, he could never get out of the first inning without getting roughed up, when you're working behind like that, it's hard to come back and even just give you 5-6 innings. Like at least for Patrick Corbin, I'll give him credit. It's not sexy what he's doing. He's not getting a ton of strikeouts, but he's somehow limiting damage with a guy who doesn't have he doesn't have fastball velocity, but he relies on off speed and breaking pitches. And Scherzer's kind of getting into a similar territory here where he's got a lot of miles on that arm and it's going to be tough for him to come back and, even put up like quality starts. Like if he does, Kyle, I'll eat my words, but I've seen this movie before and it usually doesn't end well. So I'm just, for his sake, I hope he does come back and contribute, but I'm not expecting it.
I like, he's like he's like Schneider, like not the manager. He's like, not John, but he's like, what's his face?
David Schneider?
David Schneider. He's got that, everybody likes to have them behind the bullpen. He's that good, loves to just get everybody going and all that stuff, right? He's one of those guys that I think even if he doesn't, come back, put him behind the bullpen, or not the bullpen, put him behind and just get the team pumped up, you know? Like, I think that's the reason why Schneider's in there, is too. I like him. I love Schneider, don't get me wrong. But he's really good at just getting the guys going, watching the guys, like being like a cheerleader almost, right? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
No. The trick comes with, does that warrant a roster spot though? If you're
Yeah, that's true.
essentially, if you're like half coach at that point. I mean, if he's on the IL, it makes it a lot easier because then he's not occupying a roster spot. But I don't know, for a team that's trying to be competitive, it's hard to warrant keeping someone around if they're not performing. So if he continues to struggle, I think we probably start to have the conversation of whether, you just release him or try to put him on the Phantom IL or something like that. But he is a wealth of knowledge, right? Like, it feels like if he wanted to be a pitching coach or a manager in the future, he's got a job right straight out of the gate if he wants one, being a 19-year veteran the way he is. But yeah, it's a kind of, this is hard to navigate when you've got a player that's kind of at the end of their career. You want to give them the respect that they deserve, but you also want to try and win ball games at the same time.
Do you, what's your thoughts on Anthony Santander?
Well,
I'm gonna pivot to that one because I was kind of really upset with him at the end of the year last year. I would say he kind of pulled not a stunt, but why would you wait so long to get surgery and then
that one was weird. Yeah, I don't really understand what happened there. This one's starting to look like one of the worst contracts in Blue Jays history. The fact that I don't know if we'll see him this year, so that's 2 years written off of a 5-year contract, which is crazy. But yeah, it's not looking good so far. And the fact that he came back at the end of the year, I always kind of scratched my head of like, why? What was the point of this? Like, did it do more harm than it did good? It was neat to have him back for that handful of games there at the end. But when they discovered that, he needs major surgery to repair that, could that not have happened in the off season? So were they not monitoring that, or did that just come up when he showed up to spring training? I don't know. But the timing of it was all weird. And I think it's, at this point, Jays fans are shocked that Santander is even on the roster because he's played so few games that fans are like, did the Jays actually sign him, or was that a fever dream? So, I mean, maybe he comes back and contributes next year, but again, he's going to be another year older and he's coming off a surgery. So I think expectations, like, I would set the bar so low at, like, if he contributes 20 home runs over a full season, I would be shocked. But it's wild to think that this is a guy who a few years ago was hitting 40-plus bombs for the Orioles, and now he's damaged goods. I'm not saying he's damaged goods forever, but he's got a long way back.
How old is he? I'm just trying to look it up right now. Like, he's 31, so he's not even that old.
No, it's not. We're not having this isn't like a Albert Pujols at the end of his contract, or like a Max Scherzer at the end of his contract. Like, he's got some productive years ahead of him, but the timing of this has just been so poor. Like, I can't think of a contract in recent memory. It might be the BJ Ryan one where the Jays, I feel like they got maybe 3 good years out of that contract on a 5-year contract, but this one's already 2 out of 5 are write-offs, so it's not looking good.
And how do you even make the selling feature trying to get, like, if that 5 years up and you're trying to trade him, like, he's a liability at the end of the day, no?
It's untradeable. It's an untradeable contract. I don't think you can get anybody to take on that deal just because there are so many unknowns with him right now. I think maybe if he comes back and has a semi-healthy year next year, you might be able to, it might be essentially a salary dump. Like, the Jays would have to take on a lot of money. Essentially, like, they're probably facing a similar scenario with Jose Barrios, because I want to say he he has a player option for the next 2 years, which he's probably going to take. So what do the Blue Jays do with the next 2 years of Jose Barrios? Again, in some eyes, he's viewed as untradeable. I think he has somewhat more of an asset than maybe Santander, but that's going to be a tough contract to move off of. I think that's probably one where I don't think Santander makes it to the end at this rate, but crazier things have happened, but it's not looking good so far.
Next year they're talking about a possible strike.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think that's going to affect what's going on?
It's not looking good.
It's going to happen, but I mean, we got to kind of. Things have happened. We've seen strikes before in all the other sports too, right? Not just MLB, and how much do you think it'll help the Jays, or do you think it'll not help the Jays? Because they're not. It's not like they're like a bottom spending team. They're one of the top, spending teams in the MLB right now, right? So,
yeah.
Do you think they'll level out the playing field with the LA Dodgers on what's going on there in terms of that, or do you think it will just whatever,
Right. I think the one thing the owners are trying to rally for is the salary cap, right? Like that's I think that's the one big negotiating point. And people always point to the Dodgers as being this monolith that always spends, or juggernaut that always spends more than other teams, but there's no salary floor either in Major League Baseball, right? Like
correct.
There's teams like the Pirates and the Rays and the Marlins who have always gotten by with, barely running like a payroll that's under $50 million and trading off assets at the trade deadline. To me, I feel like that is more detrimental to the game than an owner like Steve Cohen, for example, with the Mets, who's willing to pay whatever to get a player. I think that makes for a more healthy Major League Baseball than a team like the Pirates that is nickel and diming players to death. I don't know. I feel like a strike is coming, and it sucks because I think back to earlier in our conversation, 8-year-old, 9-year-old Ian, who got out of baseball, and I feel bad for the Jays because this is the year that they're really starting to get some momentum, especially with the younger fan base too, right? And if all of a sudden you take this team out from under them, that's going to stall interest for a lot of young kids. I feel like for old guys like me and for fans who have been around for a while, they're probably going to come back. They're going to begrudge the players and the owners for striking, but I think ultimately they'll return. But there's going to be a lot of folks that just won't come back to baseball. They'll go over to football or basketball, and we'll never see them again, which is a shame because last year's World Series run created it increased this fan base exponentially. So, I mean, it's not looking good. I'll be shocked if, a few years ago, there was a lockout briefly, and they did work something out. But this one, I feel like the issues are just far too large for them to figure it out before the end of the year. So I fear that we'll probably see a work stoppage next year. I don't know how long that's going to bleed into the season, but no matter what happens, it's going to suck. It sucks for fans because just you want to see your favorite players play, and if that's not happening, what's the point, right?
Do you think that those big contracts we'll never see again, like the $500 million contracts and stuff like that Vladdy signed? I'm not trying to put Vladdy in the spot. It's just, he got that big contract with the Jays, right? Do you think if they do figure out something, are we not going to see those big contracts that baseball has signed anymore?
Well, I mean, the recent trend, it feels like, especially with the Dodgers, is the salary deferrals, right?
Yeah.
That's been the big thing or building in 7 or 8 opt-outs. Like Bo Bichette right now is essentially on a 1-year contract with the New York Mets, but he could be there for 3 years if he wants to be. Shohei Ohtani, I don't know what his base salary is this year. It's nothing. But with deferrals, he's going to make all his money on the back end. So I think what we might see is that starting to be curtailed, and maybe we get more to a regular, bigger contract. Maybe not in the terms of like a $500 million deal for Vlad, but maybe the AAV is a little bit higher. Because it feels like the way that they're doing it right now is it's like the owners trying to skirt around having a certain payroll, and instead of just backloading it 20 years from now and things like that. So I think that's the one thing they really need to figure out, because again, Kyle Tucker was another one who signed with the Dodgers this year. I don't know what his salary deferrals are. Again, it's something stupid. Like,
Right.
only it's not a normal contract. It feels like it doesn't seem fair. So I feel like that's probably a big issue that needs to get ironed out.
$240 million. There you go. Kyle Tucker's 4-year, $240 million at $30 million in deferred salary. That includes it.
Yeah, or sorry, my mistake. Tucker's it's a high AAV. Like he's making like $60 million a year or something, which is it's crazy. Like you're basically being paid like one of the best players in baseball, and I mean he's a good player, but I don't know if he's great. But because the Dodgers have seemingly endless spending capability, they just throw as much money as they can at him. So I could see why other owners are mad about that, but again, I don't think the Dodgers are bad for baseball. To me, those bottom teams that don't spend, I feel like that is more detrimental to the game.
Oh, for sure. Like you look at somebody like Colorado Rockies, that that team, right? Like really, and then I think is it Las Vegas is getting a baseball team from. I had it. Is it?
The Athletics are moving to Las Vegas.
Athletics.
Yep.
Do you like that? What's your thoughts on that? Nashville, they say, might be getting a new team. Vancouver, I heard on a few times wants to get an MLB team, and what's your thoughts on these new teams that are coming into the MLB?
I think at some point I don't want it to be 40 teams, but
right.
Because the more teams you add, I feel like the product gets more watered down. But it seems like every league wants to add more teams because that just generates more revenue. I think that will be interesting for the Jays because that means division realignment, and that potentially takes them out of the running against teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox, who have always kind of been the bigger brother of the division, like the huge spenders. So I think the Jays would be in favor of that, and maybe they kind of move more into a Midwest or like a division, like with maybe Cleveland and the Tigers and Milwaukee or something like that. But yeah, I would love to see a team in Vancouver. Like, I don't know if you've ever been, but they have the Vancouver Canadians, which is a farm team of the Jays.
Okay.
It's a great environment there. I don't know where they would put the team, but baseball on the West Coast, we've seen the appetite at Mariners games for Jays fans travel all the way down there. So for sure, there's a fan base there. I don't know. I feel like the red tape in Montreal still is too thick to wade through. Maybe somewhere like Nashville is another potential spot for a Major League Baseball team. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think to a certain degree. I think maybe adding 2 more teams is fine for now, and I don't know how long that's going to take. But I feel like that growing the game I think it would be beneficial, especially if you can get another Canadian team in there. That would be even better.
What about bringing a team to Mexico?
Yeah, I feel like with the current political climate, that would be a challenge.
It would be a challenge. No, but I just gotta say, why not, right? Though, I mean, they love their baseball in Mexico. Mm-hmm. I tell you right now, I think they would do very well if we could just make it like a North American type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be. I know the political climate would be tough, but if we take politics out of it, I think it would be very interesting to see how well Mexico would be in there. So
yeah, we could. It would be Alejandro Kirk's homecoming. He's from Mexico, so there would be a big Kirk fan base there. I know the Jays in the past, they've played exhibition games, I want to say in Puerto Rico as well, where Jose Barrios is from. So if none of the political stuff was happening right now, I would say yes for sure. But crossing borders, even Canada to the U.S. is tough, and I think U.S. to Mexico would be even tougher. So
for sure.
On paper, it makes sense, but all those other things are kind of preventing it right now.
If the Vancouver did get an MLB team, um, I'm not gonna say the Jays are not gonna like that, but they're considered like the national team for Canada in the MLB. Would that even really hurt the Jays overall? Probably not, eh?
Um, I don't think so. I feel like so this always seems to come into play whenever there's consideration for adding more teams to the NHL because you can't get a team anywhere close to the GTA because that is Leafs country, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
and the Leafs would be, although it could sustain, you could have another NHL team in the GTA. I think the Leafs would really not be happy about that because that is their market.
Correct.
I think because it's so far away on the West Coast, I think if you ask the Jays privately, maybe they wouldn't be happy about it, but I think they prefer that it be in Vancouver than Montreal. Just because I think maybe you get more eyeballs taken away from the Jays to go to the Expos rather than a Vancouver team. But I think overall, it would just increase awareness of the league in general, which I think Major League Baseball would be happy about.
The question I was going to ask you is Montreal's not going to get a team, you don't think, ever? I'm a Montreal fan, but I'm also a Jays fan, but like I got family that's from Montreal, my mom's from Montreal and all that stuff. But I just don't see it even I just can't see it to be honest. I mean, it's the same thing with the Quebec Nordiques. Like I would love to have the Quebec Nordiques in, but I just don't see it ever really happening in maybe my lifetime. And if it does happen,
Yeah, it would be tough. I feel like there was a lot of momentum there when the Jays were playing some of those exhibition games in Montreal for several years, which they haven't done recently, which maybe kind of tells me that they're maybe starting to pull back on, because you still have to build a stadium, right? And the O is not a place to play baseball anymore. It's way too dilapidated, and to rebuild it would cost way too much money. I think if you have somebody who's motivated, who has enough money, it could happen, but it doesn't feel like Montreal is the place for that to happen right now. Maybe not in my lifetime, maybe in another lifetime, but it feels extremely far away right now. I feel like another site, whether that be like Vancouver, somewhere in British Columbia, is probably the next best bet anywhere in Canada, I would say.
No, I agree. I drove, we were there, I think it was like March or whatever, and we drove by the Olympic Stadium, and I don't even know what's even going on there, to be honest. I hear all the time that they're sinking just more and more money into it, right? And they used it for the Olympics and the Expos, and that's it, right? So before I let you go, we got a little time left here. I'm going to ask you some fun questions. So we're going to, it's going to be baseball related, but we're going to ask you some fun questions here. You go to the Jays game. What's your thoughts on the Toonie dog?
Oh, the Looney dog.
Looney dog, yeah. Because I've had it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I love how people get hyped up about it, but I can't sit there for waiting to get a $2. I'll spend, or a Looney dog. I'll spend the extra money to get a good Schneider's hot dog there.
This year I've recently made some like diet changes, and before you would rarely ever see me eat a hot dog, and now you'll never see me eat a hot dog unless I'm super desperate or there's nothing else there. So I think when the value's there, like the fact that it's a Looney, and you could get 10 for $10, that's great. But I think you're gonna end up paying for it in somewhere else. So not for me. I wouldn't buy one, but if you want to fill your bucket with dollar hot dogs, go nuts by all means.
I heard that there's a limit to 20. I think is what my friend said.
20 maximum, the whole game.
I think she said that you're only allowed 20 or whatever it is. Yeah, and I don't know how many she said. 14 was of what she was up to, or 12, and I'm just like 14. I was like, how do you even? I couldn't even eat one. How do you, let alone eat 14, right? But yeah.
So the Jays used to have, back in the day, in the 2000s, they used to have these games. It was called all you could eat games. And you could
Okay.
buy a ticket from a specific section, and it was all you could eat concessions. And I went to a couple of these games, and I think it ruined ballpark food for me because I may have overconsumed and I got sick. So maybe that's why me and the dollar hot dogs don't get along very well. But I'll indulge in ballpark food by all means, but I always prefer to. I steer away from the hot dogs, but I mean, I understand that's a staple, right? Like, beer, hot dog, popcorn. Those are always like, you can never go wrong with those at a baseball game. But for me, it's not my jam.
I had sushi.
A ballpark sushi.
Yeah, actually, I was on the menu, and we're in like the Rogers Banner Club is where our seats are.
Yep.
And I was on the menu, and I'm like, a sushi. I was like, I should just, because I wasn't like overly hungry, and you know what? It's actually pretty good. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
I mean, if my wife will eat sushi from like, Sobeys or whatever, I mean, I feel like that's taking more of a gamble than eating ballpark sushi. So it's, I think there's definitely worse things you could have at a baseball game.
There's some of the fun. They always have those fun those fun menus and stuff, right? I think this year's like the Vladdy, whatever they call it. And I don't know what exactly it is, right? But they have like a home run something burger or something like that this year, right? So
I have yet to eat the cotton candy fries. I think that was the big one that came in last year.
That's right.
Every time I see that, it just scares the crap out of me because in no universe should those two things be together, but I don't know. For some people, I guess that's their thing.
Fantastic.
No thanks.
I don't know. But yeah. What's your favorite? Okay, so besides Rogers, top 3 places. Have you been to other? I'm assuming, or maybe have you been to other stadiums?
I'm a bad baseball fan. I'm not well traveled. The only other stadium I've been to is Comerica Park in Detroit. So it's Rogers Center and Comerica Park are the 2 of the 30 that I've been to. So I got a lot of work to do here.
Is your plan just to go to every single 30 of them? Or do you have like a top 5?
I feel like there's others I have to visit. My friend has been to Fenway. He went to Fenway a couple of years ago. He said Fenway was really good. Pittsburgh is one I would like to go to, just because they say the environment there is really good. San Francisco is another one I'd like to go to.
Okay.
All the like touristy ones. And maybe Wrigley Field. Like if we're going historic, I feel like Fenway and Wrigley are the top 2 that you probably need to see. So I don't know. If I get to like 3 or 4 more in my lifetime, I'll be happy. I don't travel too often, but those are kind of the ones I'd like to see if I get the opportunity.
I would like to see Chicago Cubs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just for the history aspect of
Exactly.
Wrigley Field would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'd like Wrigley Field for sure. Fenway Park, I think it'd be fun to see. I'd like to go to the Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox. Detroit would be fun too. I think Detroit, New York Yankees, just to see, like you said, the history of it, right? Just because they've been around for so long. Do you have a favorite go-to? I was gonna say favorite player that you've always looked back on, that your favorite overall in the history of the Jays.
Probably Roy Halladay.
Okay.
Just because every time I look back at his career, it gets more and more impressive what he was able to do. And it's just a damn shame that the Jays were never able to make the playoffs while he was in Toronto. So he's probably, on the pitcher side, he's my number 1. And my position player side is Jose Bautista. Luckily, he was there at the tail end when they did get a chance to get into the playoffs, but he was also kind of, unfortunately, a victim of the fact that there wasn't a strong Jays team at that time, but he excelled and put up MVP-like numbers. So those are probably my 1 and 2, Halladay and Bautista.
And the bat flip is still iconic to this day. To this day, it's still the I think it's one of the top 5 viewed videos on the MLB, I believe. Definitely for sure, the Jays for sure.
Which is crazy because we had last year, we had the Springer Dinger,
I
which,
know.
if you think about the gravity of that, a home run to send your team to the World Series,
Yeah.
it's much more important, and yet people like the bat flip is like a touchstone moment where everyone's like, where were you when this happened? It's almost akin to Joe Carter's home run, but Bautista's, like, it was only the ALDS. That was only to send them to the ALCS, right? So, yes, one of the biggest home runs in all my life. I was at the Edwin wildcard game in 2016 when they walked it off. I was with
Okay.
my friend, so I was at that game. I had tickets to the bat flip game, but I sold them to somebody I knew, so I instantly regretted that decision. So I've learned my lesson to no longer buy playoff tickets and give them to other people, because if that happens, that means something good is about to happen.
We were getting lots of people asking about like, oh, is your dad gonna sell the World Series tickets? And my dad's like, no, absolutely not. Like, yeah, like, sometimes I know money, is always, if it sounds good and it feels good, but you'll never get those memories back. Money can never buy a memory back because, you'll look back at it 20 or 30 years from now and you'd be like, you know what, I'm glad that I went.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's how a lot of people justified spending thousands of dollars last year at the World Series. Like, they're like, I might never get to see another World Series game in my lifetime. Like, I want to be able to tell this story to my kids, to my grandkids. So I totally get it. Like, when I saw the prices for World Series game tickets, I couldn't justify it, but for ALCS, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because again, I don't know if I'm going to get to see the Jays go that deep into the playoffs, so it totally made sense. And if you had World Series tickets, you hung on to them for dear life.
yeah. One more question. Favorite, I was gonna say is as a kid, favorite memory watching the Jays. Did you have anything besides that 1993 you were saying about? But do you have like, back then it wasn't like recorded. You had to sit there and plan your game. That the Jays are playing at so and so. I gotta get on cable TV. Can't go back. Do you have anything that as a kid that strikes back to you and you just you're like, man, that was a good time in my life.
Yeah, probably '93 World Series, Game 6, when Joe Carter hit the home run. My parents, for some reason, let me stay up because I believe it was late. That was 11-ish p.m., which a young kid has no business staying up that late. But they let me stay up, and it kind of felt like that game. It felt like that series was going to a Game 7 until it was it Ricky Henderson and Paul Molitor got on base ahead of Joe, and yeah, he just took one pitch and swung it out, and I think like everybody in Canada, they just kind of collectively lost their minds. So that game and the very first game that I went to that I told you about earlier, are probably my two favorite Jays memories as a kid, I would say.
And they've done a lot of work. Good. I think they've done a fantastic job upgrading the stadium, in my opinion. I think
Yeah,
they did a really good job. They made
yeah,
it
I
like it
have.
looks like
I'm going to my first game this weekend, so I have yet to see all the changes they've made this year. But even
okay.
over the last like 5 years ago, it's
Hmm.
like night and day. It's just the atmosphere, the way they've opened things up. It's it's so much more conducive to baseball, because before it still felt like the multi-purpose stadium, like the Jays were just kind of renting it, and it
Right.
didn't feel like a ballpark. But now it feels more like a ballpark. Like, I think Mark Shapiro said after this renovation, like, that's it. They're going to need a new stadium at some point in the future. I don't know how far ahead that is, but I think what they've done, in recent memory, they've totally revamped it, and it's just completely overhauled it, which makes it fun for everybody there now.
I could tell you, I'm on a high. I was telling my friend 6 months. It's amazing what happens in 6 months. I got to see the Jays hit the World Series. I got to see the Kitchener Rangers go to win the OHL championship, and I went to every game but one, is what it was at home game. So I was lucky to do that. And now my Montreal Canadiens are making it
Mm.
to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? So it's like I cannot be a happier guy right now than what's going on. So
Well, you
yeah.
got to get it while the getting's good, because you never know. Because how many years was it for the Rangers? It's been like 20 something years since their last.
2008 was the last time they won the OHL championship, and I think 2003 was the last time they won the Memorial Cup.
Right. So we're almost 20 years for an OHL championship.
It's scary to think that because I graduated high school in 2007, and it just feels like it's like yesterday. I was like, man, it's 20 years already? The fact that the last time they won the OHL championship? Like, it's just weird to think that, you know?
Yeah. Well, the Jays had a 22-year playoff drought, which at one point I think I would convince myself they would never make the playoffs again because it just felt like every year they had no chance. And luckily they squashed that, and now they're a perennial contender again. So that's the thing. Like, when your team is good, soak it in because you never know when they'll be back. So hopefully the Canadians, because they haven't won, since '93? They were the last Canadian team, right?
Canadian team to win it, yep.
So they're due.
The last time they made it to the finals was 2021. People are going to say it's during the pandemic. I don't care.
Right.
The last time they made it to the Stanley Cup finals was 2021, and I got to see them in the finals, so I really don't care if we win or lose, as long as it's just fun to be. You know, people are going to say, oh, they're going to get swept by Carolina, and I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Like, this is just fun for me to watch. And, you know, fun fact, Carolina hasn't won it this year against Montreal. So,
yeah.
Knock on.
Well, you know what? I kind of took a similar approach to the Jays last year because when they knocked out the Yankees in the division series, that was, in a way, to a lot of fans, that was the world's equivalent of a World Series win, right?
Yep.
So when they got to the ALCS, I think a lot of people felt, again, oh, we're just playing with house money. We're happy to be here. And then they win that series, and then they go up against the Dodgers, and nobody outside of Toronto gave the Jays a chance against LA. So the fact that they pushed it to 7 games, that was a surprise as well. So, you know, when you have nothing to lose and you feel like you're just happy to be there, sometimes that's the position to be in.
You just take it day by day. That's the way I look at it. Game by game, day by day, right? And just enjoy every moment of it because you never know what's going to happen in that next hour and a half, right? So, or 2 hours or wherever it is, right? So,
yeah.
Ian, it's been great talking to you. It was nice. I know you heard me on a couple of times calling to my other, my buddy there, Mike Farwell. And I was wondering if you would next month, we could have you next month do a little follow-up here, what's going on with the Jays, if that's okay with you there. We can have that. Yeah, okay.
Sounds good to me.
So I'll, everybody, as you know, we do this once a week. We upload videos. This week's going to be a little bit different. We have Ian today, and then we'll have a Sly Nod as well tonight, doing another one for the Montreal Canadiens there. So we got a busy sports day. But Ian, it's been a pleasure, my friend. It was nice getting to know you here and talking some Jays, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in next month there if maybe the Jays could clinch a wild card spot or just get through some of these injuries, you know. So
yeah, I think a 500 record would be nice. So that's all anyone's hoping for right now. But no, thank you, Carl. It was fun chatting with you, and always glad to talk Jays.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thank you.